Alright guys, we've got the Power Rangers facing off against Poseidon here. Game 3 of 5 today coming up. I'm Zayori, joining me is Hippie. We're waiting for this draft to get underway, and then we're going to get straight into it. Chris, predictions, Power Rangers versus Poseidon. Will the Power Rangers be able to assemble the Megazord and make it happen?
That's a tough call, man. I mean, these are two of the stronger, not quite tier 1 teams that play in Starladder all the time. So, I mean, I think Poseidon has the stronger players, but I think Power Rangers might have better synergy.
All right. Well, we'll see if you're right, my friend. We are officially in the draft, and I'm excited. Now, Power Rangers, this is a team that we saw in Starladder Season 7. They are the Belarus team, if I'm not mistaken. And they were sort of the upset team, the team that very few took seriously, I think, until they had some big plays. I remember they had a couple of upsets, and now it's been too long, and I'm forgetting which matches they had that were particularly potent. But did they upset Alliance? Is that what it was? The Alliance versus Power? I think that's what it was. They beat Alliance in Starladder Season 7. And that was when they really got some huge notoriety. Yeah, that was it indeed. So Power Rangers, a team to keep an eye out for sure. And Poseidon, well, certainly no slouches themselves. So it should be one hell of a match. Probably one of the more exciting matches today of 5. But let's get into this draft again. I'm Zayori. With me is Hippie. I saw that meme posted in chat. Which one of us is the true Hippie? And that's for you guys to figure out. It's I like it. I like it. Having fun here at the BTS stream. Big shout out to all the guys at the BTS for giving us a shot here and allowing us to commandeer their channel for the day while their casters do take some much-deserved rest following MLG Columbus. So we do have Elder Titan and the Mighty Timbersaw, first 2 bands from Poseidon. Lich going to be that first band from Power Rangers, and all right, Pugna going to be that second band. So let's take this opportunity to talk about Pugna a little bit, Hippie, because Pugna we've saw so much of following 6.79 right away. He was that really breakout pick, and then MLG Columbus came around, and Pugna got no love. He was in maybe 1 game, maybe 2. So interesting to see Power Rangers ban him out here. I don't know. Any thoughts about Pugna and his current state here in 6.79?
I think Pugna, the reason when he first started getting picked up, teams didn't really know what was coming, and as they started to figure him out, he's fallen off quite a bit to an extent. So I think it's basically the fact that he's a very all-in sort of pick. If you pick a Pugna, I think he's got something like a 60% win rate up to like 25 minutes, but if you go past that, it just starts sliding and sliding and sliding. You have to get a whole lot of work done in the early game, and if there's any sort of decent counter pick, if your Pugna takes a lot of pressure, it can very quickly go wrong. So while it goes really well when it works, it is something that's kind of not the hardest thing to punish, in my opinion. Mm-hmm.
That's probably a good way to put it. It's sort of similar, sort of similar to that Death Prophet. She can do a lot if she gets that momentum, but you know, not the scariest of picks, perhaps. We'll see. So Venomancer, the first pick for Poseidon. Can't say I'm surprised. He is the breakout hero here of 6.79. So potent, as we saw in that last match. Unfortunately, wasn't enough to carry his team to victory, but still a very scary pick. And one of the other great things about Veno right now is that versatility. You know, you sort of expect him to be in that position 4, position 5 support, but as we saw in that last match, he can hold his own in the mid lane just fine. So that makes him an even more valuable first pick because it's so open-ended for the rest of your draft. Crystal Maiden and Clockwork here are going to be the first 2 for Power Rangers, and we'll see what Poseidon want to grab for their second pick to go with that Veno.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about Veno's power in the mid lane, I mean, a lot of it comes from the fact that he can also really get a lot of mileage out of those tanky items, kind of similar to Viper, because the longer he sits around in a fight, making sure Poison Sting is up on people, making sure that dot keeps getting reapplied, the better off everything is going to be. It's something we saw ages ago in another game that shall not be mentioned here, but Trixie used to do a solo Venomancer all the time. Mm-hmm. And it was incredibly successful. He built very, very tanky, and he would almost carry games on his own just by building this super powerful Venomancer and just spreading his poison around for the entire game. It was incredibly, incredibly effective, and I think it's kind of starting to finally get a little bit of love here in the Dota scene now that the Poison Sting buff has happened.
Yeah, exactly right. And yeah, that classic Venomancer build, what was it, Vanguard first, into Hood of Defiance, into Pipe, super tanky Veno, just name the game, survive, and throw out poison. Oh, those were the days. But
I like
Bristleback,
early mech better now, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah, early mech, a little bit more viable, but I think we actually did see a Veno grab Vanguard first in one. It must have been Trixie. I think it was Fnatic that did it at least once at MLG Columbus. But one of those matches where it's sort of like, yeah, you could have done anything. You guys did not win because of the Veno Vanguard. It really didn't make a huge difference. But Bristleback going to make another showing here, the second pick for Poseidon. So. Is Bristleback going to become a breakout hero here? Is this the age of the bristles?
I do think he has a lot of potential as teams are shifting towards more mid-game focused lineups. I think that there's a lot of focus towards getting the more aggressive styles of carries, getting people who can snowball more easily, getting people who need less protection because of the fact that tri-lanes are much more difficult to execute and overall less rewarding than they were previously. I mean, this is something that we saw coming as soon as we saw the 6.79 notes. We're going to see these mid-game carries become more and more viable as we move forward and the meta develops, and that's exactly what's happening. You see Bristleback a lot. You see Lifestealer a lot. You see kind of tanky Weaver builds to try and get a little bit of early damage going, and you're seeing, mid-game push lineups. You're seeing heroes viable without needing a ton of farm. Like, you didn't see Burning pick Anti-Mage once at Columbus, and I think that's a statement right there.
Absolutely, I certainly agree with that, but I'm more perturbed here by the third and fourth bans coming out from Poseidon. Starladder and Necrolite, or Necrophos, depending on how much of a hipster you want to be here. Wow. I mean, both of those heroes work very, very well against Bristleback. Obviously, the amplified damage from Starladder helps counter the Bristleback, and Necrolite, I mean, he works well against any really tanky hero. Once you're beyond that threshold, he can basically just instant kill you with that ultimate. So I understand the reasoning behind the bans, but wow. I mean, when was the last time we saw Necrolite picked up in any kind of competitive game? Interesting to see him banned out here. Power Rangers going to ban out Puck and Visage, two very powerful heroes, no doubt, and that will open up for a third pick, Clinks. Is this going to be an EE Sama style Blink Clinks build here, Hippie? What do you think?
I have no idea. I will point out, though, that he didn't win. I forget who picked him. It might have actually been Power Rangers, but there was a one-position Necrolite yesterday in Starladder play.
All right.
So it is something that is happening, but
right.
I'm not sure it's viable yet. I'd like to see a little more experimentation. I'm not sure it was worth the ban, but the Blink Clinks, man, it could happen. I don't think so in this game unless he gets a really snowbally sort of start. Right. I always prefer Orchid, but EE obviously proving that Blink works for him, and if it works for you, make it happen.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to put it. I hadn't realized that Power Rangers had already picked up Necrophos yesterday.
I'm not sure it was Power Rangers. I don't want to commit to that. It was picked yesterday in Starladder play.
Okay,
I can't remember what team did it.
All right, good. So glad you were here. I was not watching. I did nothing Dota related yesterday. I basically woke up, got on an airplane, got home, and passed. I didn't even get to play Hearthstone. I just fell asleep. That was it. So I caught absolutely no Starladder yesterday. But we'll see what Poseidon want to grab here. They are going to break into their bonus time, and there it is. Viper going to get picked up again. So already a very similar draft from what we saw in the last match. Very, very tanky and scary. Venomancer, Bristleback, and Viper. A lot of poison, some sticky goo, a lot of physical damage as well. This roster is just, these are three heroes that are just annoying to play against. They're all very powerful, but just so irritating. The slow, the dots. Wow. Poseidon, they are here. They are ready to be an irritant in the side of, a thorn in the side of Power Rangers, as it may be. Naga here, going to be that fourth pick to go with the Clinks, Clockwork, and Crystal Maiden.
I do think that it means we're not going to see a Solomid Venomancer because it's much more likely to be the Solomid Viper. So Veno probably will not be the ridiculous force he tried to be in the previous game. He won't be, of course, as powerful as the Mushi Veno, but you'll still have the power of the extra poison. If the Viper rushes a fast mech to help keep the Veno alive, if the Bristleback gets maybe a fast pipe to deal with magic damage, although there is a level of magic damage on Power Rangers, but so far their lineup is pretty balanced between physical and magical, so I wouldn't assume a pipe rush. But in general, just the amount of slow that's coming out of Poseidon right now, and this is talking about not just slow, but slow that doesn't, ignores your magic immunity.
Right.
Once Venomancer slow is on, it's not off. Viper will put it on right through. It's going to be, again, these are heroes that both are good at kiting between Viper, Venomancer, and now heroes that can get kited easily, Bristleback and Alchemist. So you have these nice anti-BKB slows to make sure that your Alchemist and your Bristleback can constantly be in range. It's a nice little dynamic they've got going so far.
Absolutely right. So, and I like the Alchemist pick. I totally agree with you. I think it synergizes well, and also the Acid Spray to stack up that minus armor with the Bristleback. Now, I'm going to be bold. I'm going to throw it out there. Could this be a fifth pick Dazzle from Poseidon here? Is it possible, Hippie? Could we see it? Could my beloved Dazzle come into play here in this match?
No.
Ah.
That's my guess. It's possible, but I wouldn't put money on it. I do think some sort of healer would be really valuable for them, and I mean maybe they could do a Dazzle Bristleback long lane and a Veno Alchemist in the safe lane, that could definitely happen. I think it depends on how they feel Power Rangers is gonna lane. If they feel like there's gonna be, because you don't have a lot of good anti-kiting back there. If there's any sort of slow, if you have maybe the Crystal Maiden babysitting the Clinks in the bottom lane, then your Bristleback Dazzle probably isn't going to get a whole lot done because of the control coming out from the Crystal Maiden and the invasiveness of the Clinks. And if you do pick a lane like that, it really has to get a lot of zoning pressure out. It has to get a lot of kills done, or it wasn't really worth it. So I wouldn't gamble on it. That's a pick I like, just because I like Tinker, but it's still kind of out of left field.
Yeah, exactly. Tinker is sort of known for his irritating presence. Of course, I think one of the things he's known most for is his ability to turtle. It's so hard to push into those marching machines, and we actually saw that a game with Tinker was at the DK versus EG final match, the final round robin that DK had to play, where EG picked Tinker and DK commandeered the match. I mean, they were ahead by like 10k gold within the first 15 minutes, but they couldn't break into the base. The game went on for another 20-25 minutes because that Tinker is just so hard to push into, even if your team is unbelievably far behind. So that is one powerful portion of the Tinker. But yeah, kind of an interesting pick nonetheless here. And I'm trying to think about how these lanes are going to come out. Kind of an off-lane clockwork, I guess a position 1 Clinks, and then solo mid Tinker. Is that probably what we're looking at here? And Vengeful Spirit going to be the final pick for Poseidon. So a very synergistic hero, very aggressive, more minus armor to stack upon their team. Not the Dazzle that I was hoping for, but a similar flavor. I think I can live with the Venge pick here, Hippie.
And it gives them a setup stun for the Alchemist. It gives them a stun in general to interrupt things that's on demand as opposed to having to wait for the charge up. And it's, better travel time than Alchemist. You have the swap. You have a lot of good things coming out of that. It is quite a lot of nice minus armor. You're stacking up with the Acid Spray and the Viscous Nasal Goo. So you can really start to annihilate people, especially early game with the Quills, and the bonus damage from Nether Toxin is going to be putting out a ton of damage. I'm really worried if this is a solo mid Tinker, because Tinker against Viper is a matchup I have no confidence in Tinker to win.
Yeah.
At all. I think not only is Viper an incredible solo mid, but if you try to zone him out with March, you're getting corrosive skin put on you. So at the very least, you're getting some return damage. Viper has the magic resistance. There's a lot of things that are in Viper's favor in that matchup. So if that is the matchup in mid, it's going to be very difficult for the Tinker.
Yeah. Absolutely right. And sorry, I was just glancing at chat there and getting too much multitasking. Going to move into a pause to start things off. It looks like, I don't know what the issue is here. Tinker is not loaded in yet. One problem with Starladder, I have no idea what they're saying when there's an issue between matches. I really we need a translator, man. We need somebody to break down what the deal is here, but alas. Should be an interesting game. I like this roster that Poseidon has, though. I have to admit, I think the Venge pick does work nicely here, not only for the aura, but that Wave of Terror just going to help so much, especially in the early game. That little bit of minus armor goes a long way when you're stacking up those quills, and things can get pretty sticky pretty quick. See what I did there with the sticky goo.
I'm judging you right now. I'm judging you very hard for that. Don't forget the Acid Spray. I mean, it's probably going to be a farming Alchemist of some kind, but if he does end up running support and he starts maxing up that Acid Spray, that's a whole lot of nasty physical damage coming out from those quills.
Yep. All right, so it looks like Alchemist is loaded in, and that is a good sign. We are going to resume. Awesome. Yeah, Game 1, the solo cast, I think there were like 6 pauses in Game 1. It's so hard to keep with the momentum when you have to stop and not talk about the game. But, all right, let's go ahead and take a look at what's happening here. We'll see how these lanes settle down. We can introduce our rosters. Right now it looks like Power Ranger is going to send at least a 4-man squad down to the bottom lane. And we'll see where this ends up settling down. Is this going to be a Clinks mid, perhaps? It looks like he is lining up for the mid lane. And is it a tri-lane Tinker? Is that what we might see here, Hippie?
I think it's possible. I think Tinker, if he gets the gold fast enough, can do a lot of recovery with experience, especially if he has someone to stack Ancients for him, and he can just march them down. But basically, the faster you get of course, the Boots of Travel and the Soul Ring online, the faster you come online in your farming ability. Your farming ability just skyrockets once that happens. And, of course, your team fight presence, because just being able to be anywhere. They can't engage anywhere near creeps and not expect to have a Tinker on top of them.
Right.
So it's kind of like, I've seen a couple times a Tri-Lane Storm Spirit. I think it's kind of similar to that in that you want to get the really valuable items up really quickly and then give them a lot of space to get as much experience as possible in as short of a time as possible.
Well said, my friend. Well said. Let's go ahead and introduce these rosters here. It looks like we do know how the lanes are going to settle down. On our Radiant side, we do have Team Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers of that. In the top, going to be Cheshire Cat playing on the Tinker. In the mid lane, looks like it will be Moon playing on the Solo Clink. So that means we are going to have a tri-lane in the safe lane for Power Rangers. J4 going to be on the Crystal Maiden. FNG going to be on the Naga Siren. And, of course, ZXC going to be in the one-position Tinker down here in the bottom lane. Now, on the dire side of the map, we do have Team Poseidon. Up in the top, it is going to be Illidan on a solo Bristleback in the safe lane. In the mid, that means we're going to have Tame My Wild playing on the Alchemist, solo Alchemist at that. I like this choice. We don't see it all too often, but certainly does work well. Going to go ahead and skill up the Acid Spray right away to make the life of Clinks a bit more difficult. That means a tri-lane in the long lane for Team Poseidon. JOTM going to be on the Vengeful Spirit. K going to be on the Venomancer, and Solo going to be on the Viper. Is K someone else? Does he have a silly name here? Or is he just
I have
K?
no idea. I can't answer that for you.
Okay, all right. Just making sure. Just double checking. So, all right, it is going to be a try-on-try, and as you mentioned, we don't see Tinker. Well, we don't see Tinker very often in general, but when we do see him, it's almost exclusively in that mid lane. He's one of those heroes you sort of think of that really needs that experience to get going. But I think you really hit the nail on the head. If he can get those really fast boots of travel, he can start to snowball a bit more effectively, and farm can be the name of the game, and then make up that experience gap a bit later on. We see Poseidon already up to some crafty stuff here. We see the Venomancer as well as the Venge rotating through the Radiant jungle, perhaps looking to catch somebody off guard and maybe set up a kill. Clinks in the mid lane. He does have the skeleton walk already, so not going to be an easy gank to start things off. No detection on the field quite yet, so they aren't going to be able to rotate mid and set up an easy kill. Looks like they are just going to rotate back down towards the bottom lane. And this actually isn't a tri-lane anymore for Power Rangers. It is just Tinker and Naga at the moment. We see Crystal Maiden being played by that J4, just going to roam into the dire jungle and pick up a little bit of farm. But down in the bottom lane here, the Venge as well as the Veno going to go ahead and engage on the Naga Siren. Not going to be able to finish off the Naga, and they're actually going to turn it around here. The Ensnare going to come out. One more hit ought to do it. Oh, the Solve going to be just enough to keep Venge alive, but a close call. Tinker almost securing himself a first blood. That would have been a scary precedent for Poseidon right there. Right now, they do have a tri-lane versus a duo lane, and Power Rangers getting the slightly better of them is already Vengeful Spirit going to be forced to walk back to the well.
That is the power of 3-second 100% miss on that laser. They had the slow onto the Naga. They had the stun onto the Naga. They had the Viper start auto-attacking her, and then bam, laser came out, Viper damage is gone, and whoa, Clockwork up top.
Yeah, and all the while, I was looking at the Alchemist here. I thought he was going to be the first blood. He was going for the rune. Alchemist gets pinched between the Crystal Maiden as well as the Clinks. They're going to be able to grab themselves a kill. And up in the top, Clockwork going to be able to grab himself a solo kill for that bit of first blood onto the Armadon. I completely missed it because I was looking at the mid, but that's a little bit unexpected. I mean, we know that Battery Salt does an absurd amount of damage, but I would have thought Bristleback is one that could hold his own against Clockwork in a heads-up situation.
Well, Bristleback, I mean, until he has those extra levels in Bristleback itself, he's not really, like, amazingly more tanky than anyone else. You can see that Clockwork has a ton more hit points than he does, 758 as compared to 663.
True.
So in a heads-up engagement, just kind of smacking each other, Clockwork wins anyway. But just the power of Battery Assault, man, it's so much damage. People really don't think about it sometimes. And, you know, it's a build. We see Max almost constantly in 1v1. It's always Battery Assault because if you get them in the cogs with you, if there's not, you know, a bunch of creeps in there, it's almost a guaranteed kill. There's practically no heroes that can survive unless they have some sort of escape mechanism, and Bristleback doesn't.
Right. Very true, and you're exactly right. At these early levels, I mean, now he's got 2 points in the Bristleback ability as he is level 4, 2 in the Quill Spray, 2 in Bristleback, so that's going to help. But yeah, I guess that first point, I mean, it's not that significant. Only a little bit of damage reduction. We're going to see it again right here. They're going to go toe-to-toe. Cog's going to come out. Battery Assault going to be used. Bristleback trying to stack up the Quills. It's going to be a close one. Bristleback not going to be able to make it, though. Cheshire Cat going to be able to walk away. We see the Vengeful Spirit rotating up. Not going to be able to make it in time, so wow, Clockwork going to be off to one hell of a start in this match. Cheshire Cheshire Cat already 2-0 here at the 4-minute mark. He's already level 6. That is just great news for Power Rangers. And down in the bottom lane, it looks like Tinker is doing all right. He is 12-1, and he is holding his own. Looks like they may try to engage on this Viper a little bit. Nope, they're going to go down to the river. They're trying to finish off the Veno. That's going to be a Frostbite. The Heat-Seeking Missile is going to come out. That'll be the end of the Veno. Crystal Maiden going to be able to grab that last hit, and Snare going to connect with the Viper right before he gets to the high ground to fog him. Not going to dive it, though. I think that's a smart play to play this a little bit more safe, though. J4 taking a lot of damage here. J4 going to be destined to fall. Vengeful Spirit going to be the one to grab that last hit with the Wave of Terror. Very nicely done. That's going to be the first kill on the board for Poseidon, though. 4-1. Cheshire Cat's now down here. He's going to catch Tame My Wild. That early experience now already level 7. Going to connect with the hook shot. That'll be the end of the Alchemist. Power Rangers off to one hell of a start here, Hippie. 5-1 here at the 5-minute mark.
That was a really, really ballsy play from Tame My Wild. He started charging up the stun in the river to try and get it on the Tinker to make sure they could follow him up in the woods right there. But he just barely, the Tinker managed to get out of range. I'm not sure if he managed to fog him just quite, but he couldn't get the stun off. And, you know, Power Rangers, they were on top of it. They saw, they're like, oh, he's charging up the stun. He's going to get stunned, self-stunned in the river. Quick rocket from Clockwork, hook shot in, bam, battery assault to finish. Really nice heads-up play, and I can't fault Tame My Wild for going for that, because it would have been a really huge pick-off if they'd gotten it. Right. Unfortunately, it does cost him in the end.
Absolutely. And while all that was happening, Clinks was just happy to soak up some free farm in the mid lane here, and Clinks is actually now leading the way on the net worth chart. He doesn't have any kills to his name. He does have an assist, but his farm is looking scary. 31-9 here. He's doing quite well for himself. 3 points in that Searing Arrows. Went for an early Ring of Aquila to go with the bottle and the Boots of Speed. So Moon definitely not going to be a slouch in this game by any stretch of the imagination. See some wards come down here from Power Rangers. They are going to counter ward the bottom rune. Going to be able to pick one off. Unfortunately, not going to be not much duration left on that ward, but still going to get a little bit of vision control. And going to put one up on the high ground right outside the Roche pit to continue pressuring that mid lane. Clockwork, though, level 7 up in the top lane, just continuing to put the pressure on, soaking up that farm. Illidan is starting to recover a little bit on the Bristleback, though. He is now level 6, so that is good news. And again, while all that was happening, it opened up a little bit of farming for him, and he is now going to be 31-7, actually second on the last hit chart here, so second only to Clink, so that is good news. But there's a rotation coming up to the top here. Smoke going to be used. Cheshire Cat on that Clockwork, going to bump into the Vengeful Spirit. J4 on the Crystal Maiden going to be here as well. Not even going to need the hook shot. He's going to be able to catch the Venge and the Cogs, and that'll be the end of the Vengeful Spirit. Now Naga going to come in, but Naga, maybe, oh, pardon me, my mistake. I got confused for a second. Bristleback going to fall. It's going to be a double kill for Clockwork. I was thinking Naga was on the dire side at first. I was like, I'm not sure what he's thinking, but that was just a total Zyori fail. I didn't have breakfast, folks. My bad. Down in the bottom lane, though, we're going to see Tinker now in a bit of trouble, perhaps. He's going to get connected on by a Gale. Now Viper going to be able to engage on him. Yeah, not what you can do, but oh, no, the neutral's going to be able to finish him off. Wow, a small stroke of luck coming out from ZXC right there. Probably couldn't have counted on that, but he is going to get denied. That is painful to watch here from the eyes of Poseidon.
Yeah, we do have some quick Clockwork hook cancels coming up in the bottom lane. Cheshire Cat looked like he wanted to go on a solo, but yeah, I don't think he could have counted on that. He dropped the March to fight, not to try and get the neutral deny, but exactly. It was still really pretty awesome that it did happen for him. I think the biggest problem right here for Poseidon is that Clinks hasn't been slowed down at all. He's 45-12 at the 7.5-minute mark. He's been on 1 assist. He hasn't died, just not enough pressure going on him. He's got 1,200 gold, boots, Aquila. And this Clinks, I mean, I've heard Clinks described as one of the most timing-dependent heroes in the game, and I don't think I disagree with that. And so if he hits his timing, he's one of the deadliest forces that you can possibly go up against, and if he misses it, he just kind of becomes a paper-thin skeleton that you can't deal with. And it really looks to me that he's going to be hitting his timing, so I'm worried that Poseidon is already kind of on the back foot. They're trying to rotate to defend their Tinker. Right. He's not really getting all the farm he needs. He's got, actually, does he? No, he's nowhere near his Boots of Travel. Wow, I just looked at his last hit count. He is, you know, not close at all to that. He has the bottle and the Soul Ring, so he can get some stack farming done, but that still means Tinker is going to be delayed for another probably 4 or 5 minutes, given that he has almost no gold right now. And so the Clinks is just, he's got so much to do in this amount of time, but I don't think Poseidon's ready for it.
Yeah. Well, and also, we see Moon here. I was curious what he was going to do. Is he going to go for Fast Orchid? Is he going to go for Blink? And he's going to go for Midas first, basically. Well, Midas after Bottle and Aquila. He does have the recipe in the bank now, and I don't think, I don't think he has the gloves yet. So he's close to that Midas. Still going to be a very, very early hand to Midas. So that means Power Rangers not going to be too eager to be super aggressive. Obviously, in the next 5 to 10 minutes or so, they're going to be looking to be a little bit more passive, as you mentioned, farm up the BOTs on that Tinker, allow Clinks to get rolling a little bit with that hand to Midas, and then somewhere maybe that 15-20 minute mark or so, maybe even a bit before that, Power Rangers are just going to flick the switch and really start to put on the pressure. And in the meantime, they have the luxury of this Clockwork, who is leading the way on the level chart, level 8 right now, who can continue to move around the map and put that pressure on. Clockwork is just one of those heroes that if he gets that little bit of early edge and gets that early level advantage, he is just so irritating to deal with. That hook shot and power, well, power cogs and battery assault combo is just so deadly. When he gets those early levels as well, the damage rotation he can put out is just ridiculous. So they can use that Clockwork to try and zone out Poseidon a little bit and can maintain map control while opening up some room for both their Clinks as well as their Tinker to continue soaking up that valuable farm. We see down here in the bottom lane, Cheshire Cat going to get engaged on. Viper is going to ult him. He's going to use cogs, and Cheshire Cat just going to go ahead and pour it out there. He's going to play it safe, and I think that's the right call against a Veno, Venge, and a Viper. He is indeed going to be able to survive. So with this, though, that will open up a little bit of farming room for Poseidon. Viper is still farming very well. He is 44 and 13 on the net worth chart. He is number 3 right now, just slightly below that Clockwork. So that is sort of the saving grace, I think, for Poseidon right now. They're not that far behind, but at least their Viper is soaking up a lot of this early game farm.
Yeah, and it's valuable if he can manage to make something happen with it. He's got the headdress already. He's going to be going for the buckler in probably about another 50 gold. He'll be able to pick that up. And so maybe we'll have a mech coming out at the 12-13 minute mark, and if they can get something done with that, if they can maybe get some early towers with the mech, get those rotations working, then it'll be very valuable. But hook shot miss coming out from Cheshire Cat. He's been hitting a lot of those this game, but Solo, I think, saw him coming and just juked backwards just a little bit to make sure he didn't get hooked and killed. Yep. And he's still very, very susceptible to those Clockwork gags right now.
Oh, for sure. And absolutely, before that mech comes out, Viper, one of those heroes that very powerful and does a lot of damage, but no true escape mechanism. You need that mech for the stats. You need that heal to be able to stand your ground and have the chance of being able to just outlast your opponent. This is that golden opportunity where Clockwork can just continue to pick on him. If he catches him in the cogs, Viper is basically dead at this juncture here. I was looking at the Clinks. Moon did have a double damage rune on, considered engaging on that Bristleback, but still just a little bit scary. Bristleback, although, a little bit underfarmed here, still a very tanky presence. He does have the Ring of Health and Stout Shield, 1100 gold in the bank, so if he wants to get that early Vanguard, the build we saw in last game, this will be that window of opportunity where he's going to be able to get it reasonably quickly. Again, Bristleback was off to that slow start, getting picked off twice to the solo Clockwork, but since Clockwork has started roaming, Bristleback is actually number 2 on the last hit chart with 56 last hits, Clinks leading the way at 63, so Bristleback's farm is actually not as bad as you would think it is, given that he is 0-2, or actually 0-3, pardon me.
Yeah, he's certainly not having the game of his life, that's for sure. But he's going to be getting something. On the other hand, I mean, he's finished off his Vanguard, so that timing really isn't that bad. He's only got brown boots, but he should be able to chase with the Warpath stacks. But again, they're kind of on the back foot already. And what you want when you get your Vanguard on Bristleback is for him to be able to just run in and start fighting. You want to have a little bit of an advantage already so that he has some space to get the farm, and then he just runs around killing everybody because he can't be killed. And, ooh, Clockwork getting picked off.
Yeah, Naga going to come in, does port and tries to use the, well, does use the ultimate to try and save Clockwork, but unfortunately not going to be enough. The poison between the Viper and the Veno just going to be too much for the Clockwork to handle. That was just, it started with a, pardon me, unstable concoction from Tame My Wild, and unfortunately couldn't position himself with the cogs to get away from it. And Clockwork does fall, so that's going to be a nice 700 gold bounty going the way of the Alchemist, as that did end the mega kill streak, 650 gold, so not too bad for the Alchemist there. That's going to be a nice bit of recovery farm for him as well. He'd start in that mid lane, and his farm isn't terrible, but still not as great as it could be right now, about 3.8k on the net worth chart, but Clink's really starting to take off here. Again, with all these rotations down to the bottom lane, Moon has been unchecked for most of this match. Now that he has the Midas, going to have that belt of strength as well, he's just going to get out of control. They really need to set up some kills on this Clinks just to slow down his momentum. And even at that, sort of the damage has almost been done. He's already so far ahead. If they kill him once, Clinks is still going to be in a good spot. But I think they'd be well advised to try and shut down that fiery skeleton there, because he will be a thorn in their side once that Midas starts to show some positive return on investment.
As soon as he gets his treads, he's going to be that much harder to kill. But Okay, so if you think about it right now, take away the 1900 gold he spent on Midas, he still has 3100 gold, which isn't amazingly high compared
Par
to the
for the
other teams.
course.
That's 3100 gold of useful items. So you'd be a little bit behind the Viper, a little bit behind the Alchemist, but trading about even with everyone else. And he has that Midas investment, so he's going to be catapulting forward. You know, he's about to get another 390 gold in 12 seconds. So the fact that you can take you can basically take his items, take away the Midas, and he's about on par with everyone else. That's a really bad sign because it means that that Midas investment was basically free for him.
Yeah.
In terms of, he doesn't need to have something else to be on par with everyone else. The Midas is purely something that's ahead of everybody else.
And that's a really good way to look at it, and scary indeed. Clockwork does have his Staff of Wizardry. I'm going to guess that'll be a 4th staff, but could be going for the really fast Oggs as well. Either would probably be okay against all that poison, that mobility to kind of get out of sticky situations, and also to sort of reinitiate can be very powerful. But, we've seen a few situations where Clockwork with a very fast Oggs can be very scary as well with that 12-second Scepter cooldown on Hookshot. You can really do a lot of work. So we'll see what item path he ends up choosing. Clink's now going to be able to finish up his powered treads. And I'm still curious what item Clinks is going to go for here. Is he going to be the Orchid Carrier, or is he going to do something a little bit different?
I can't answer that for you. I think an Orchid would be nice because you have a lot of heroes who are relying on sort of spammy abilities, especially the Bristleback. If you can Orchid him down, it slows down his Warpath stacking. You can get him out of the fight very, very early. He won't be able to get all his Quill Sprays, his Nasal Goo off, start stacking those up. I think it's incredibly valuable against that hero, and it's valuable against Viper as well. Pick him off before he can start throwing out poison attacks, before he can get off the Viper Strike. So I personally would like the Orchid. He may decide to go for something else.
And that is going to be the mech here in the inventory of the Viper, so that is really good news for Poseidon. We were just talking about how susceptible Viper is to ganks, especially against the Clockwork, who's picked up a bit of early momentum, so that is definitely a big item pickup, and will give Viper a little bit more utility in these upcoming fights / engagements. He'll be able to stand his ground much more easily here indeed. But still a reasonably passive game. We saw a lot of early kills, but only 10 on the board here as we're past that 12.5-minute mark. Both sides just being pretty comfortable sitting back and farming. We do see J4 on the Crystal Maiden with an invisibility rune on. Is going to rotate through the mid lane here, looking like you may want to try and set something up on Tame My Wild, and they certainly could make it happen indeed. We see Naga positioned on the other side of the river, and Tinker nearby as well. Tinker's farm still not that great, although what's on the courier? Oh, never mind. That's the Boots of Travel recipe. I was like, wow, his farm's really bad. No, this isn't so bad. 13 minutes here, Boots of Travel, he's going to be in good shape. We'll hold that thought, though, as there's going to be some initiation in the mid lane. FNG on the Naga, going to get engaged on as Illidan pushes forward. Clink's going to start unleashing the arsenal of fiery arrows. There's the hook shot. Going to connect with Illidan. Oh, no, those cogs going to push him out. Maybe that was intentional, though. Cheshire Cat kind of stuttered there a little bit. Yeah, it looked like it was more... First. Yeah, he stepped back, and that is going to push back the Bristleback. Almost called him Armadon there for a second. Almost. So very defensive cogs, but still a nice play right there to secure the life of all of his buddies on Team Power Rangers. Now that Tinker's got the Boots of Travel, he's going to be able to head down to the bottom lane and defend this bottom Tier 1 tower and prevent Viper from grabbing a free tower kill. And this is that time where we're going to see Tinker start to take off a little bit, I think. Once he gets to those Boots of Travel, his farm is going to skyrocket. He is going to be all over the place as he continues to rearm and reset all those cooldowns. That pesky Tinker indeed. Also, I want to comment, Tame My Wild, the level 10 Alchemist here, Phase Boots, Magic Wand, and now a Blink Dagger to go with his bottle. A very squishy Alchemist, but I guess going for that initiation power here is now he has that long-range Blink.
Yeah, he's playing a ganking Alchemist. I mean, it's similar to the old Shadowblade build. The idea is to charge it up out of sight and then unleash it on them at full charge when they have no idea what's coming. And really, with the nerfs to Shadowblade, I think this is actually a better build for a ganky Alchemist, especially when you're not relying on to get a lot of auto attack damage out of. Like, if you're not relying on him as your primary source of physical, this is beautiful. You can get, you can charge it up from way out of range, then blink in, and the cast range on the Unstable Concoction is already huge. So, I mean, combined with the 1200 unit blink, you have something like almost a 2000 range initiation, I think, something along those lines. It gets pretty dangerous, and that's way outside of vision.
Yeah.
So you can just blink in from outside of vision, stun someone with this huge, 3 or 4 second stun, and you're just like, well, that pretty much means you're dead right there. 360 physical damage, 4 second stun, pretty big deal, as long as there's someone in position to follow up.
Absolutely. Now, Klinks has picked up his quarter staff here, so it looks like he's going to be slowly working towards that first Oblivion staff, and then, of course, into the Orchid. That would be my best guess. Unless, I guess there's a small chance he could be going for a Butterfly first, hard carry Klinks. Pretty doubtful that'll be the case, but yeah, going to have that Orchid in a pretty timely manner. This Viper, though, continuing to impress me with his level of farm. Still number 2 on the net worth, chart about 5.7k, and Klinks holding steady at about 7.1k. So Solo been doing a great job with this lane presence down here, and he's just been soaking up the last hits. This tower getting dangerously close to falling. ZXC on that Tinker is going to port down, going to use that Marching Machine, and still just making it so difficult for Poseidon to continue to finish off this tower. They're continuing to put the pressure on, but you know, Tinker just all over the place. We already see his farm just getting out of control now at about 5.1k himself, and you know, he was kind of doing okay, holding steady, but at the tail end of the pack, and now he is number 3 on the net worth chart. So just can't underestimate the value of Boots of Travel on a hero like Tinker.
4 staff up on Clockwork, so he's going to be able to, you know, push people around the cogs. Now he might be saving ZXC right here. No, he still gets picked off.
But now Illidan going to be in a bit of a sticky situation. He is going to be able to move around the side of the cogs, but Cheshire Cat going to be able to put out a lot of damage. Illidan going to move into the tower, and yeah, Illidan's certain to die right here, just going on that suicide mission, trying to get a kill to the tower instead of the hero, and he is going to fish his wish and get picked off by the Radiant rather than feeding another kill to the Clockwork. So it is going to be a 1-for-1, and unfortunately Tinker not going to be able to survive right there. That is one of the issues with Tinker, although he does have that mobility. The Boots of Travel give him no stats, so if he does get caught in a situation like that, kind of a fat chance he'll be able to survive. A noble effort with the 4 staff, but unfortunately just not quite enough.
Yeah, Tinker is very, very positioning reliant. If you get caught out and you don't have your mobility options up, and especially against this team, having anything but a 4 staff, which it appears he's going for, would be really, really dangerous. A blink is pretty difficult to manage with this amount of long-lasting damage over time and this amount of kind of long-range, the long-range options coming up, the slow, etc. You're probably not going to get enough space to blink out. So I like that he's choosing to go for a 4 staff. I think it's much, much more valuable, even though you would generally see a blink in most games. And, you know, a few 4 staffs is going to be a real problem for Poseidon, because I mentioned it's really, these are heroes that really suffer from getting kited. And even if you have good slows on someone, if they just get, you know, a couple 4 staffs away, the slows are going to wear off. You're not going to be able to get the reapplication of the goo, the reapplication of the poison attack, which is a very, very significant deal. And, oh, ZXC is in so much trouble right now.
Yes, indeed. And is he going to be able to make it out? Oh, no, pardon. I thought he was channeling the Boots of Travel. Yeah, ZXC going to fall right here. And I thought another fight was going to engage on the side of the Ancients where the rest of Power Rangers were, but no, they're not going to go for it. This Ancient stack is going to get cleared out by Poseidon, and they're going to grab themselves basically, well, Viper going to grab himself a free kill onto the Tinker, so that is definitely good news for them. Let's take a look at the gold graph. Not something we've glanced at too much in this game, but Power Rangers with a nice lead set up for themselves, still holding steady at about 3,500 gold, somewhere about 6,000 experience, give or take there, despite conceding a couple of those deaths. And we do see another Handamitis picked up now by J4 on that Crystal Maiden, a very popularized build as of late, and we are going to see an engage take place down in the bottom lane. This bottom tier 1 tower for Power Rangers finally going to fall, but there it is. Naga Siren going to initiate with the ult, going to catch Viper and Bristleback. The Cogs going to come out, also going to catch the Venomancer. ZXC now going to be back in the mix. He's going to get hit by the Gale as well as the Poison Nova, as Venomancer perhaps in a bit of trouble. Klinks is actually going to fall to the wrath of the Bristleback. This fight not quite going the way Power Rangers were hoping. Now the Naga going to be in some trouble. Clockwork got picked off as well, so that's going to make it a 2-for-0 exchange. Naga is going to be able to get away. They've got the Crystal Maiden in their sights. They're in hot pursuit. Crystal Maiden with the Tranquil Boots is looking pretty speedy right here. 365 is going to be able to make it away, so only a 2-for-0, but Power Rangers not getting the defense they were looking for. The Tinker does survive despite all that poison stacked up on him. So Poseidon now with a sign of life. That gold graph, whoa, taking a plunge into their favor. Now only about a 1,500 gold lead as Poseidon do move into the Roche pit. I think this is the right play right here. Absolutely no way Power Ranger is going to be able to contest this Roshan.
Well, yeah, they have an amazingly good early Roche team with all this minus armor. They have Roche at -7 armor right now, so he's going to fall very, very quickly. You can see, and you see actually the speculative dust popped, which is weird because Klinks was dead.
Yeah.
But I suppose, I mean, but that Klinks kill actually is a really big deal. He was sitting like 200 gold off of his Orchid when that happened. Now he's another 400 gold away, so he lost that farming time. They've delayed this by maybe a minute, minute and a half. Every time you slow down a snowballing hero like Klinks, I mean, you slow down the progress of the snowball, obviously. And if you get to the point where you have just a little bit of an advantage and you can stop that snowball from rolling, bam, you've neutered the hero completely.
That's absolutely true. 8-7 here as we're about to approach the 20-minute mark. Poseidon picking up a lot of momentum. They were up against the ropes for the early stage of this match, but boy, have they turned it around. They're going to group up and start to pressure this Tier 1 tower in the mid lane. Power Rangers are eager to defend. A Force Staff has now been picked up on that Tinker, so he's going to have a bit more mobility, a bit more survivability in these upcoming engagements as well. Poseidon not going to press their luck, though. Hot off that Roshan kill, they don't want to dive into that marching machine that's so hard to fight in, and they're just going to pressure that Tier 1 tower, get down to about 200 health or so, and they will be forced to back up. The Aegis of the Immortal did end up on the Bristleback, and Illidan has now also picked up a Sanj, which is kind of an interesting choice. And I wonder, is this going to be an SNY, or is he just going to be going for a fast halberd? Sort of what I'm curious about here in the upcoming moments. And glancing at any other big item pickups, no. Well, as we're looking at the chart here, Clink's finally going to be able to grab that Orchid around the 20-minute mark, so that is definitely good news for our Radiant side, as Clinks is going to rotate towards the mid lane, and we're going to see an engagement here. Solo was invisible. That's going to be an engagement onto the Tinker. He's going to Force Staff back. Not going to be enough to keep him alive. Does get the marching machines off before he goes down, but unfortunately not going to be enough to help keep him alive. Cheshire Cat now inbound, does have a hook shot available, but he is sort of by himself. Yeah.
Oh no, the TPing away.
Is he going to go for it? No. Maybe. Is there going to be another engage erupt here? Moon is nearby. Again, he does have that Orchid fresh, and the tower going to be denied in the top lane. There it is. Tamai Wild going to port up top, and that will be the end of the Tier 1 tower. First tower kill for Power Rangers, actually, as it does get denied. And now Poseidon going to group up, pressure the Tier 1 in the mid lane. That's going to be their second tower kill of the match. Neither of them denied. And uh-oh. Are you just resetting here, or did I lose you?
It was disconnected from Dota. Just
okay.
Keep going.
All right, awesome. So Alchemist is going to get picked off in the top lane here. Moon is starting to hit hard. Those Searing Arrows mixed with the Orchid, that'll be an easy kill on the Alchemist, so at least going to get a bit of a recovery kill here. Let's take a look at the gold graph once again. It's pretty leveled out. Poseidon, well, not quite taking the lead yet. Power Rangers leading by triple digits, somewhere about 800 or so, but nothing too crazy there. Sort of an interesting match. Poseidon picking up that momentum. In terms of carry potential, though, I don't know. I mean, Clink's not that traditional hard carry, and I feel like Viper may be able to overtake him in the late game. I guess I'm trying to decipher in this sort of static back and forth match right here, who has more of an advantage? You know, who is looking more forward to that passivity to transition into the late game?
Well, I think if you're looking at straight carry power, I think it goes to Power Rangers unless that Alchemist starts getting a lot more kind of physical damage stuff, and he's going for a Necrobook, actually. Necrobook 1 just entered his inventory, so he's not trying to transition into a carry. I think since the change, of course, in 6.79, where Searing Arrows are no longer getting blocked by BKB, it means he can be a perfectly fine hard carry. With that extra 60 damage on each thing, he can build a very attack speed focused build, make sure he's always getting that bonus 60, and do it, you know, kind of similar to how a Shadow Fiend does it. Oh, missed hook shot.
That would have been an easy kill on Tamai Wild right there. We saw the Orchid get popped right away, but unfortunately just off the mark. But yeah, it would have been a noble effort. And one of the problems with going a Blink into Necrobook on Alchemist, it gives him some utility, it gives him some pushing power, but he's not that tanky. I mean, only 1200 HP. Alchemist is a relatively tanky force on his own, but yeah, in a situation like that, that would have been an easy kill for the Clinks and the Clockwork. Unfortunate for Cheshire Cat right there. But we'll see. Solo staying pretty quiet on that Viper. He's just been farming away down here in the bottom. Now has the Ognim Scepter. I see a lot of people in chat criticizing the way we pronounce Ogs. I don't know the proper way to pronounce this item, but I'm sticking to my guns here. Ognim Scepter is what I'm going with. Still good to see. Ogs and Mech, always scary on Viper. That ult now down to a 12-second cooldown, and plenty of survivability as well. I worry a little bit for Poseidon, though, as there are two Hand of Midas on the side of Power Rangers, no Midas on the side of Poseidon, so all things equal, Power Rangers will start to pull ahead a little bit in terms of golden experience if, you know, towers don't get knocked down, kills don't come about, and all that kind of stuff, though. They still haven't had a huge effect in this game quite yet, and the other big item pickup I wanted to mention, Heaven's Halberd now in the inventory of the Bristleback, so going for that bit of utility there, going to add the disarm, the slow, and of course the 25% evasion.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's a good thing because he gets that evasion, he gets that disarm against the Clinks, of course. Remember, that disarm is more effective on ranged heroes. He's going to get a good 4.5 seconds out of it instead of 3, as if he was hitting a melee carry.
Right.
But, I mean, Clinks is building a BKB. He just needs the recipe for it, and I find it very, very likely he's going to go for an MKB afterwards. I mean, knowing that there's evasion on the other team. So, I mean, the power of that halberd, I honestly would have liked to see Sanj and Yasha, a more offensive sort of item, make sure that Bristleback can't get kited quite as hard. And oh, Illidan, I think he's probably going to live through this. I mean, you got the Crystal Maiden slows, but I don't think they have the damage to bring him down.
Yeah, the 2 supports, unfortunately. A golden opportunity, but not going to be able to finish him off. But uh-oh, Solo could be in a little bit of trouble here. He's going to walk right by Moon. I guess Moon not confident that he can go toe-to-toe with the Viper right here. Not going to go for it. Probably the smart choice. With that Orchid, I thought maybe you'd have enough burst damage with the Strafe, as well as the Searing Arrows, but Moon going to play it safe and just continue farming away with that Hand of Midas as we move into yet another pause here. Solo says only 20 seconds. Destined to be a short one, Hippie.
I actually think that he wasn't as concerned about can I bring down the Viper, because I think he could have. I think he was concerned because he didn't see anyone else on map. I mean, the only person they had seen recently was the Bristleback in top lane, and so they didn't have any idea where the supports were, where the slows were, whether or not there was dust available in that vicinity. So he just makes the safe choice. He knows his team is doing okay, but he also knows that they've thrown away a bit of an advantage, and he doesn't want to be a bigger part of that.
Yeah, very true. Up in the top lane here, though, we're going to see Song of the Siren used to initiate. Port's coming in, and Tinker going to make his way up here as well. Oh, this could be so bad for Poseidon. Venge going to be the one to get Orchided, and I think she very well may be the first to fall. Bristleback trying to turn his back to the rest of the party. He is taking a lot of damage here, though. He's going to be hard-pressed to survive this. Tinker just trying to get out of range of those Quill Sprays to try and survive. Moon now perhaps in a little bit of trouble. The only one down is Venge. That Bristleback just too tanky. Tinker and Klink's both going to fall. It's going to be a 2-for-1 turnaround as Poseidon gather their troops, and they're now going to cut this lane. They're stuck between the Tier 1 and the Tier 2, but Power Rangers just forced to scatter. The tower does fall, and wow, that fight just not going the way that they were looking for. Crystal Maiden going to get picked off, as will the, oh man, the Clockwork. That's going to be a 4-for-1 exchange. Poseidon going to grab themselves a top Tier 1 tower, and probably going to be able to grab this Tier 2 tower as well. I mean, 4 dead, why not? Just keep pushing. Glyph going to be burned. Creeps are inbound. Using that Glyph way too early, but yeah, this tower destined to fall. Not much they can do about it. So Poseidon really going to pick up some momentum here, now finally leading by a nice 3,000 gold margin. Going to be much more than that as this tower does fall. They're going to hop forward. That's going to be initiation onto the Naga. The Alchemist using that long range as we talked about. They're going to dive this Tier 3. Illidan in hot pursuit. Down he goes. Now Tinker's going to come in. Tinker might need to be a little bit careful here. He's going to be able to force staff back and will survive. So that is going to end up being a 5-for-1 plus 2 towers the way of Poseidon. You don't really get a swing bigger than that, Hippie.
I'm just going to toot my own horn just a little bit here and say that I said, you know, oh, they're falling behind in the laning phase. They're going to build a mech on Viper. They're going to tank him up, and then they're going to go win team fights and take towers. And I'd just like to point out, you know, the past couple team fights gone in Poseidon's favor. They use that mech advantage, man. I mean, it's, you know, they're punishing also the fact that a couple of Midases have been picked up. Not a lot of support items. Obviously, still no mech being picked up on Power Rangers. You can have all the force stabs in the world to disengage, but if all of your item building is based on, oh crap, we need to disengage, as opposed to we can stand and fight, you're just going to keep losing towers. And I get that they want to delay the game. They want to give the Klinks and the Tinker a lot more time to come online, because I really feel like in the late game, Power Rangers lineup is much, much, much stronger. Not just from a carry perspective, since the Alk isn't building that way, but from a team fight perspective. Because you have a lot of heroes that have very, very valuable things they can do, even in a late game team fight. You have the Clockwork Hookshot and the Cogs, which are very, very disruptive even against BKB. You have the Naga Siren ultimate. You have the Naga Ensnare. You have the Tinker March. You have the Tinker rearming everything. Eventually he gets a Perma Sheep. If Power Rangers keeps farming, I think this game is just theirs. But Poseidon, they're just keeping the pressure on. They're punishing those mechs.
Yep.
Yeah, excuse me, those Midases.
Those Midases, wow, I was going to say. They're lacking the mech. Punishing the lack of mech as well. Punishing the Midases, yeah, exactly right.
There's another item to help them knock down towers.
Yep, exactly. I was just going to say, he's got about 3,500 gold in the bank. Is it going to be a heart? And indeed, it is going to be an AC. And I love what Poseidon is doing here as well with their Bristleback sort of driving the force right now. He's actually #1 on the net worth chart at about 13K. This is where he really shines. He is a mid-game oriented hero. You know, another 15, 20, 30 minutes from now, Bristleback is really going to start to fall off relative to that Tinker, relative to that Klinks. And this is that golden opportunity that Poseidon need to capitalize on, and are doing so at the moment. And it's working out well for him. Now with the Assault Karas, things are going to be that much more difficult. We see Power Rangers looking like they want to be a bit more aggressive here, perhaps. We see 3 of them grouped up about the top lane. Double damage going to spawn up top, and CM going to leave it available for Cheshire Cat to come up and grab. Poseidon will defend that top Tier 2 tower here. And I think Poseidon are just gearing up for another team fight. Are they going to be waiting for another core item? Probably not. I mean, Viper now has the Reaver, so they're going to be working towards a Heart of Tarask, which will be scary as well. Viper already very, very tanky with the mech and the Augs, and he's also level 16, which is something important to note. That ultimate even more potent now as we see Poseidon. They're going to smoke up, rotate from the dire jungle into the mid lane, and they're just going to try and find someone from Power Rangers. If they can catch someone in their sights, they may be able to grab themselves a kill. Also want to point out, Veno has picked up a Hand of Midas, which is, again, sort of that flavor of the month. Supports grabbing the Hand of Midas to start to transition into a bit more farm-oriented builds later on in the match, but he, alas, does have that Hand of Midas and probably going to be working towards a Scepter of his own. Poseidon going to move straight into the Roche pit. He's going to fall very quickly thanks to that minus 26 armor on Roshan. Yeah, he's going to melt like butter to a warm knife. Down he goes. 13 to 10 as we're about to approach the 30-minute mark. Poseidon still commandeering this game. 7,500 gold advantage, about a 6,000 experience advantage. They're in great shape, just looking around for an opportunity to try and pick off someone from the mighty Power Rangers.
Yeah, and you also can notice that Tame My Wild has solved his Clinks problem. He's picked up a Ghost Scepter. So it's going to be very, very difficult for them to bring him down with the Clinks. Obviously, the Clockwork can focus on him, but if your Clockwork is focusing on someone like the Alchemist instead of on the Bristleback, instead of on the Viper, who are just running around picking off all your other heroes, I think he's done his job if he starts to get the Clockwork to initiate on him, and he wants to go in on ZXC, but he can't quite get in range for that stun.
Yeah, very unfortunate indeed. But, yeah, I think you're exactly right about that Ghost Scepter. And speaking of other items, Clink's now going to have a BKB, so that's going to give him a bit more survivability. We'll see a hook shot connect with Solo in the mid lane. Cheshire Cat may get turned around on, though. He does have a Blade Mail, so this Viper needs to be a little bit careful. Cog's going to come out. Venge going to swap him. That'll interrupt the port, and down he goes. Venge going to be able to grab that last hit on the Clockwork. A bit overzealous from the Cheshire Cat right there. He kind of got stuck Solo. Hook shot in, and then the immediate, let me port out of here. Of course, didn't make it, so that is going to be a free kill going the way of Poseidon. But it did open up a window of opportunity for Moon to grab that tier 1 tower kill in the bottom lane, so Clinks' farm going to be scooted up a little bit, still nipping at the heels of that Bristleback, trailing by only about 500, right around that 15k mark.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know what Cheshire Cat was thinking there with that hook shot. I mean, the Viper has proved to be very tanky. You know he has a Reaver and a Cloak, and on top of that, with Corrosive Skin, he's reducing 52% magic damage. Yeah. All of your damage output from Clockwork is magic damage, and you really start to fall off on your damage output, your scaling, just beyond level 7 or 8. When you've gone that Battery Assault build, that's when as compared to everyone else on the map, your damage is at its highest. And as you start putting levels into Flare, of course, it doesn't scale up as well as other things. Other people's abilities are scaling up. Their health is scaling up. So you do start to fall off. And where I think he feels a lot stronger than he is, he remembers those times in the early game where he could just pick people off. And now, you know, he goes in on this Viper who has 2,800 life now, just finished his heart. He had 2,200 when he got ganked, you know, a minute ago. Right. But a Cloak, he had the Reaver, he has Corrosive Skin, he has Mech. And you didn't have any support in the area. I don't know. Maybe I'm harping on it too much. It was just really iffy. Yeah,
absolutely. The follow-up just wasn't there. If it was someone else, perhaps, but that Viper, as you mentioned, he's just so tanky right now. He's so farmed relative to everyone else. Just sitting there thinking, I remember the days when I could solo a Bristleback. Not anymore. Poor Clockwork. He doesn't age as well as some of the other heroes in this match. Let's talk about Tinker, though. We haven't checked in on old ZXC in a while. He does now have the Ultimate Orb, so undoubtedly, I think, going to be working towards that Scythe of Ice. As you mentioned, once Tinker gets farmed enough, has a big enough mana pool, he can pretty much perma-sheep someone, and that's one of the things that allows Tinker to really be a hard carry if farm allows. If he has the mana pool, he can just keep rearming and spamming those abilities, so I think Sheepstick going to be a smart choice here in this match, no doubt. Always a good choice on the Tinker. Cheshire Cat, he does have an invisibility rune on. It looks like he's considering engaging on Tame My Wild here. Necro Book is on cooldown, so this could be an opportunity, perhaps.
For Clinks.
Yep, Clinks nearby is going to farm these creeps a little bit, perhaps trying to bait him forward. Tame My Wild still a little bit close to that tower. Cheshire Cat going to be going forward here. Cog's going to come in. Oh, he could be able to grab the courier as well. Nope, not going to be able to grab it, but are they going to engage this? Clinks now going around the backside. There it is. Cog's going to come out. Alchemist going to be stuck in the middle. Battery Assault going to come out. Moon just unleashing the cannons. Of course, that Ghost Scepter going to be used. Going to buy Tame My Wild a little bit of time. And the Freezing Field going to come in. Going to be a bit of extra damage. That'll be the end of the Alchemist. A noble effort with the Ghost Scepter, but unfortunately, he got one up to there by the Crystal Maiden, and then, of course, Clink's able to finish him off after the Ghost Scepter wears off. Going to be a nice kill for Power Rangers. Alchemist going to get that first-class ticket back to the grave here for another 60 seconds.
Yeah, but in the meantime, I mean, they were comfortable going on that Alchemist because they saw 4 heroes rotated bottom from Poseidon, and they just took a tower. And I
Yep.
think you'll trade your Alchemist for your bottom tier 2 tower pretty much any day of the week. And I mean, also, Power Rangers committed 4 heroes to that in the end. You saw 4 people rotate mid. Only 3 of them really actually ended up engaging. But it's just, it's so difficult to bring down 3 of these 5 heroes on Poseidon that you have to commit so much to them. You're basically giving up a tower anytime if they're already in position to take it, and you go try to gank someone saying, oh, they're out of position, they can't save this guy. You're just, oh, wow, that's a Radiance on Naga Siren.
Yep. Is it really?
Yes.
Wow, that is not something we see too often. Naga's farm, I guess, much better than the average support. And, well, I guess 7.6k, we are 35 minutes in, just pulling up that gold for Radiance. An interesting choice here. And there was another item pickup that I wanted to mention, and now I've totally forgotten. Oh, Clinks does have that Demon Edge, so probably going to be working towards that MKB, as you mentioned, to try and counter, of course, the evasion on the Bristleback, and also sort of synonymous with Clinks trying to be a bit of a hard carry here. Always a powerful item pickup. We'll see a double damage rune now grabbed by Viper, and he's just going to clear out these ancient stacks here on the dire side of the map. 11-14, Poseidon still in control of this match for now, leading by 6,000 gold, 7,500 experience, still in great shape, and very well may be able to secure a win in Game 3 of 5 here for Starladder Season 8 on Beyond the Summit. I'm Zyori, with me is Hippie. Again, folks, thank you so much for joining us here for our debut on Beyond the Summit, as it may be, as the casters do get some much needed rest following Columbus. We thank all of you for joining us here for these awesome Starladder matches. And up in the top lane, we're going to see some initiation onto the Bristleback. Clink's going to throw out the Orca, going to get a couple of auto attacks off before he gets disarmed, and going to be forced to retreat. Not much he can do against the Bristleback when he can't shoot those fiery arrows. Alchemist going to come around the backside with the Necronomicon on. He's got some vision. He's going to connect with the Unstable Concoction onto Clinks. Clink's going to be in big trouble here. Alchemist starting to go in on him, but will be forced to blink backwards, recognizing he's not going to have the damage, doesn't know where the other supports are, going to play it safe, and will just get the hell out of there. A smart play. Unfortunate, though, they weren't able to shut down that Clinks.
Yeah, now ZXC just showing off his flip push power, but oh, Alchemist going to make sure he doesn't get it. Tame My Wild gets the stun off just before that TP was about to complete. The laser is going to stop him from putting out a lot of damage. Force Staff comes out. Ooh. I don't know what he was thinking burning that Soul Ring right there. I mean, I know you have the blink and you have the chase, but you have to... He needed the mana for the laser. But yeah, the laser cast time, I mean, any experienced Tinker player will tell you, if you are trying to laser to dodge a single auto attack that's going to kill you, you're going to die. Yeah. The cast time on laser is awful.
Yeah, that's exactly true. At first I was like, what was all that health? And I was like, oh, he actually did just use that Soul Ring. Okay. But yeah, that was a sticky situation either way. Not sure if he would have survived if he didn't use the Soul Ring, because Alchemist still would have been up in his face, chopping away at him. But alas, with Tinker dead here for another 20 seconds, is there a buyback here for Tinker available? And yes, there is. I'm not sure he's going to have to burn it, but still just food for thought here, as Poseidon are going to group up, pressure the last remaining Tier 2 tower. They are going to dive forward, and Cheshire Cat going to take a lot of damage here. Naga is going to get the ultimate off just in the nick of time. Clockwork will be able to survive to tell the tale, but there's absolutely no way Power Rangers will be able to keep this Tier 2 tower alive. Naga with the illusions, using that Radiance to harass a little bit, doing a good job there, but still this tower taking a lot of damage, and I think it is destined to fall. Tinker is now popped back up, so he's going to be here. That March of the Machine is going to make the lives of Poseidon that much more difficult. There it is, coming out. And they will be forced to back, but I think Poseidon going to be happy with that. Just going to grab that Tier 2 tower, and they will head back and regroup here. Got what they came for, as it may be.
And you got to look at, I mentioned how if with the Ghost Scepter on Tame My Wild, with the lack of an ability to burst him down with Clinks, they were going to have to focus a lot of abilities on him in fights. He got ensnared, he got Viper struck, he was getting focused by the Crystal Maiden. He had pretty much everything possible coming out on him, and he just gets out with full life, while the rest of his team sits in the back and DPSs the tower. Tame My Wild is just sitting on the front lines, and for all of his, not having an insane amount of life, not being an incredibly farmed alchemist, he's still tanky enough and difficult enough to bring down with the Ghost Scepter and with all the regen from his Chemical Rage that he's causing huge amounts of problems to Power Rangers on that front line. I mean, just they don't want to have to deal with that acid spray any longer than they have to. They don't want to deal with those constant concoctions. And he swings, okay damage, so the Chemical Rage with that bonus attack speed, he can hit you for some decent damage. So they have to deal with him somehow, but I don't think they can figure out a way.
Yeah. Sorry, I saw Epi. So, yeah, no, you're exactly right, and we see the Alchemist with about 4,000 gold in the bank. He's already on Necro Book level 3, so I'm kind of curious what item he's going to grab next. I would have thought, oh, Assault Cuirass makes a lot of sense, but they already have one on the Bristleback. And speaking of Bristleback, it's him versus the world right now. Moon, FNG, and J4 all trying to go in on him. Klink's going to get caught by the Unstable Concoction, and down he goes. Alchemist with that reveal, compliments of the Necro Book, going to be able to grab himself an easy kill, and it was a 3v1 on that Bristleback. He was able to bide his time, do a bit of damage with those Quill Sprays, and Poseidon there for the support. Klink's going to be dead for 60 seconds now, and Poseidon going to have a little bit of an opportunity to perhaps make something happen here. Still going to be hard to push into the March of the Machines, but a 5v4 on the field for another 50 seconds. We'll see what they want to do. Cheshire Cat maybe in a little bit of a sticky situation, going to be forced to burn the cogs and then just pour it out to safety, so he's going to be able to make it back to the base. Perhaps Poseidon not going to be able to get too much following that kill, but still turning it around on the Klinks. Very, very powerful, very, very good for them indeed. And Bristleback still, he's about 3,000 gold ahead of Viper on the net worth chart, so he's really about an item ahead. I mean, his farm is very impressive here. He's now got Assault Cuirass, Vanguard, Heaven's Halberd, Reaver, and Boots of Travel. And I think, is that his heart? Yep, there it is. Just finishing up the Heart of Tarrasque right now. So this Bristleback, he is hanging in there. He is tied for the highest level in the match with the Alchemist, both at level 20, so they are really in great shape. This Bristleback is becoming it's really a thorn in the side of Power Rangers, quite literally, and just going to be so difficult to take down. 3.4k HP here at the 40-minute mark. He is rock solid as we see Poseidon move into the Roche pit again. All that minus armor. Roche going to fall so quickly. Cheese on the ground. Who's going to grab it? It's going to be JOTM on that Venge to grab the cheese, and of course Bristleback going to be the one to grab the Aegis of the Immortal.
And Tame My Wild finally starting to build physical damage. He is getting engaged on here at the top lane. The TP boots are not going to go through from the Bristleback. The creep they were going on did die, but they're too afraid. They have two heroes on Tame My Wild, and they just leave. Last second stun from that concoction, and she tried to get the song off, I think, right there. You saw her winding up her vocal cords, but it just was not enough.
Yeah, and now
the Radiance burn! The Radiance burn!
Oh, it did finish off the Alchemist. That's going to make it a 1-for-1. I was looking at the Tinker. He's going to be able to pour it out. Yeah, nice little crafty play from the Naga. I forgot about the Radiance burn. It's still like wrapping my head around a Naga with a Radiance. I mean, it does synergize well, compliments of the illusions, but just not something we're used to seeing. Yeah, absolutely. Venomancer.
TI2 carry Naga.
Yeah, Venomancer going to get picked off by the Clockwork. Carry and Naga in the same sentence. Not something I've heard in quite some while. This Clockwork, though, he's taking a lot of damage here. Compliments of that poison, is going to be able to sip the bottle and will walk away with just a few hit points to spare. Barely going to be able to survive, so Poseidon going to sacrifice a couple of kills there, unfortunately, but they are still in great shape. Again, glancing at the graph, it just continues to get worse for Power Rangers. 10,000 gold, 14,000 experience gap, absolutely huge here at the 41-minute mark. Aegis of the Immortal still in tow with that Bristleback, so I think if Poseidon group up and take a solid 5v5 engage, they may be able to do it. A lot of it at this point is just going to come down to that initiation power between the Clockwork as well as the Song of the Siren. Which team gets the better initiation, and then on top of that, the counter initiation. Again, same story, different chapter with the Alchemist. We talked about the Blink and the long-range Unstable Concoction, especially if they can find a pick on that Tinker. I think that'll be the golden ticket for Poseidon to push in and try and break the base. FNG could be in a little bit of trouble here. Does get scattered out by the Wave of Terror, but is going to be just a bit too speedy for Solo and JOTM to catch, and he is going to survive. So both sides just going to continue on farming here, Hippie.
This Radiance is actually being incredibly effective for Power Rangers. You can see that they're just trying to buy a whole lot of time. Naga has now gotten port boots. She's trying to be a split pusher along with that Tinker. She's just using her illusions to keep the lanes pushed out, buy farming time for Tinker, buy farming time for Klinks. They still have confidence, Power Rangers do, that they can take this in the late game because of what I think is a superior team fight. Their other problem, though, is that the longer they wait, the more this Alchemist gets farmed, and he will eventually transition into a carry. I think he has... okay, he's at lower gold than I saw. I don't see anything in his stash. But he does have a Basher. I'd assume he's transitioning to an Abyssal Blade at some point in the near future to lock down that Klinks during the BKB, and that will be really huge.
Yeah, absolutely. That will be my best guess as well. My best guess, pardon me. There are two interesting items that I wanted to mention, and the first one is on that Venomancer. That Hand of Might is really coming in handy here, and thought they may catch the Klinks, but he has been able to finish up his Ognim Scepter, but he's now got a Veil of Discord, an item that we don't see all that often, but going to work very nicely here, very synergistic with the amount of damage he can put out. We're going to see this Crystal Maiden in big big trouble. That's going to be a swap. Easy kill as J4 does get taken out. That's going to be a 5v4, and here we see Poseidon just pressing forward. Illidan on that bristleback. He doesn't have a care in the world. He does have the Aegis, so this is not a bad position for him to be in. He did get caught in the cogs. The March of the Machine doing a lot of damage to him here. He is completely out of mana, but still at half health, and he's just going to tank this tower. He's going to go forward, and right now Poseidon are saying, hey, you know what? The more you guys burn on the bristleback, the better it is for us. Please use those abilities, use that mana to take him down so we can pop back up with full health, and he's just going to tank it. Acid Spray going to come down. The tower is going to fall. There is a glyph available here for Power Rangers, so there is hope for them to save the racks, but oh no, Tinker just going to get demolished by that Viper. Tinker going to buy back right away. The ranged racks fall, or pardon me, the melee racks fall. Ranged racks taking a lot of damage. The Illidan is so low on that bristleback, but he has the Aegis, still not afraid to fall. That regen is just ridiculous. Once that heart comes back off cooldown, and already another 4,000 gold in the bank of bristleback. He is going to be 6 slotted soon, really, as it may be. He's already got the boots of travel, so his farm is just out of control. Poseidon now really just taking command of this game. Now that they've broken this lane of racks, you know, going to be a lot more difficult. And like I mentioned before, if they can manage to pick off that Tinker, that's going to be their golden ticket. And alas, that's what they were able to do in that last fight.
Yeah, this Tinker pick, as much as I like it, it's just, I like it as a hero. He's not getting anything done. And I really think that a big problem is the fact that they delayed creating space for the Tinker so much, with Clinks going back to farm very, very hard. So the Tinker, you know, he doesn't have the items he needs, and he's 0-7 at the same time, and now he's going to get swapped. JOTM is probably going to die there, but the counter initiation is used by the Naga.
Absolutely. We can't forget Illidan still has the Aegis of the Immortal on that bristleback. He's just regenerating so quickly. Naga Siren going to get turned off, and indeed JOTM will be the first to fall in this fight. Clinks and Viper going toe-to-toe. Clinks going to come out ahead. Viper is going to fall. There's going to be a Gem of True Sight on the ground. Aegis going to be burned. Bristleback going to pop right back up, and he is ready to fight. He's going to get sheeped again right away. A little pigged, I guess you could say, as they do head for the hill. So Poseidon may be overextending a little bit. Viper down, as well as the Vengeful Spirit. Power Rangers will hold their bottom lane of racks at least. Their tier 3 tower did take a good bit of damage. They actually still have a glyph available. They didn't burn it trying to save that mid lane of racks, so it was probably, well, an ill-conceived notion for Poseidon to grab that bottom lane, but still putting the pressure on, burning the Aegis. I can see it. And as we've been talking about with this Alchemist, he is going to be scary soon. He's now got the cheese in his inventory. It was pooled to him, and 2.7k in the bank. He's going to be close to that Abyssal if that is the item he's going for, and I think that absolutely will be. There's a BKB now on Clinks, as well as a BKB on Crystal Maiden. We saw in that fight, part of the reason Clinks was able to go toe-to-toe with the Viper was because he had that BKB active the entire time, and if they have the Abyssal to cut through that BKB, Clinks is going to find himself in a much more difficult situation in these upcoming team fights.
Oh, Naga Siren might go down. Oh, he can't quite get the vision. He does!
Oh, very
FNG
close.
Gonna get caught at the last second by that unstable concoction, and slowly but surely slap-chopped away by the Alchemist. And that is the gem down, isn't it?
Yeah. Is there just one gem?
That's very unfortunate.
Is that the gem that they had stolen?
The gem.
Yeah,
they stole the gem. It's very, very common to put it on the Naga so that the illusions get the true sight and counter work with them.
Right. And also, I don't know if we mentioned this big item pickup, but Viper now has a Butterfly complete, so that 35% evasion, not quite as powerful as it would be. Of course, Clinks has had that MKB for quite some while. He now has a Crystallis as well, so Clinks certainly transitioning into that hard carry. Tinker in a little bit of trouble, perhaps. No way to interrupt the port, and he is going to be able to hop out. Very unfortunate right there for Team Poseidon at least, but Tinker does survive and makes it back to the base. Right now we see Cheshire Cat on that Clockwork, camping at the top rune spawn, and he could be in sort of an awkward position here. ZXC gonna get caught though. Oh no, what was that? Did he just port to the creeps? And oh man, that was just bad.
He got baited. I mean, that's what you do to deal with a Tinker. Real quick, Cheshire Cat trying to chase tame my wild. All Moon is gonna be there as well. Are they gonna get him? No, they're just gonna back off.
Go for it.
But basically, the #1 way to bait a Tinker and an Nature's Prophet is to have people smoked up or out of sight in a lane on one side of the map that's getting pushed up, and then push him out of the other lane, and you know they're naturally going to want to TP to the other side of the map to push it and farm it, and it's an easy pick off.
Yep, this bottom tier 3 going to fall. Moon going to be in big trouble here. Looks like he did take a stun to the face. I'm not sure where it came from, but he is going to... Oh, it was a bash from the Alchemist, pardon me. But that is going to reset the fight here. Naga is going to use the ulti. Naga going to get dropped right away. Crystal Maiden going to come in with a BKB freezing field, but unfortunately the right click's going to be enough to take her down. Power Rangers going to be forced to tap out here. The GGs come out, and after 48 minutes of gameplay, Poseidon will take this match over the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, 25-15. Only 40 kills in 50 minutes. An action-packed game, though. Nonetheless, it was exciting to see a Tinker pick, as always, Hippie. But Poseidon They just had the skills to pay the bills. That Armadon, as we mentioned, he does fall off compared to a lot of other carries, quote-unquote carries, but his momentum just never slowed down. Still number one on the net worth chart by a huge margin, 27K. He is completely stacked out of his mind, and there was just no way to shut him down. They put him in the front lines, and what's a Power Ranger to do? Not much.
Not much indeed, my friend. I don't think I could have put it any better. I just, they got done what they needed to. Poseidon did. They were on the back foot. They capitalized on the item pickups and punished the Midases.